We are at Franklin Field here at the University of Pennsylvania. The USA is about to take on the Australia. And yes, you've got it right, Rugby League. What a game this is for the locals. They have an 8-team competition. And of course, the Glen Mills Bulls, the champions, played earlier tonight against the Coogee Dolphins. Let's take a look now at the lineups for both these sides. And here is the American team that will take on the Kangaroos. Their fullback is Eric Hollingsworth. The winger is Rick D'Ortoni and also Nate Smith. The centres are Danny Bull and Ben Kelly, and a couple of familiar names to Australian fans. Of course, Matt Peterson, a winger with the Parramatta Eels, will play 5'8" here tonight for the Tomahawks. He has American heritage, as does Brandon Costin, a former Canberra player and most recently a player in the UK Super League with Huddersfield, who will play at halfback tonight. The forward pack is Jeff Preston. He's also the captain at lock forward. Christian Rahui, Shane Mains are the second rowers, and the front row is Matt Astle, Marcus Vasilakopoulos and Ian Blake. The bench for the USA Tomahawks: Ryan Coleman, Roger Tuamaloa, Will Brazier, Chris Waters, Ed Woodbridge, Kevin Deal, JC Roker, Joe Becker and Gareth Gibbs. 9 reserves are available for both teams tonight. As we take a look at the Australian side, Laurie Daly, the Kangaroos will play a couple of players short on their bench.
They will, but they're no short of talent, Warren. The exciting Matty Bowen at fullback. On the wings, Luke Rooney and Matt Singh. In the centres, Matt Cooper, Brent Tate. The world's best player and Australian skipper in the 5'8" position, Darren Lockyer. He forms a great combination with Brett Kamali at halfback. Then we look at the forwards. The St George Illawarra lock forward, Sean Timmins, and the back row, Ben Kennedy, Nathan Hindmarsh. Up front, the Bulldogs connection of Mason Endo Mealy and Scott Hill out of position, playing in the number 9 jersey.
That will be very interesting as we take a look at the bench for the Australians. A number of players after the Tri-Nations campaign being rested. It's Berrigan, Sivanasiva, Carroll, Ryan and Minicello who will play off the bench for the Australians here tonight at Franklin Field. This particular stadium has been around since 1895, when the first Penn Relays was held, a famous track and field meet here in America. So many world records through college athletes have been broken over the years at this particular venue, and they pack it out with something like 52,000 people to see the best American college track and field stars go around. Tonight they'll see some very good rugby league players, the best in the world, of course, with the Australians taking part, and the USA Tomahawks, as Rob Balachandran told us, a former Tomahawk himself. This is their biggest moment quite easily in the sporting lives of most of these players, especially the local American players, and they have a good support base here tonight. Their big chance on the world stage, and plenty of NFL scouts have made their way here tonight also to take a look at the Australian players in action, Laurie. I know a couple of them are very interested in the likes of Willie Mason, who, if he put on a couple of kilos, might make an impact at some level in American football.
Well, he's made an impact in the game of rugby league, Warren, over the last 12 months. He's been in terrific form. Big Willie Mason as both teams line up. And, of course, Jeff Preston will retire after this game, the US captain. He's been a wonderful servant for the game over here in the last 10 years. And also, Anthony Minicello will be leading the Australians out tonight. He is the Harry Sunderland medal winner for best player on tour, and that is something that has been missing from the Kangaroo tours since 1994, when Brad Clyde, that great forward for New South Wales, Canberra and Australia, was the last recipient.
Some of the greats of the game have picked up the Harry Sunderland medal as the best international player for Australia in a given year. And as you said, Brad Clyde, the last man to win it back in 1994. And Anthony Minicello leads out the Australians tonight. He is the Harry Sunderland medal winner for 2004. And I must say, there are a number of Australian fans who live in this part of the world, or in fact are touring at the moment, who have made their way down to Philadelphia from all parts, including Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York as well. And there are some very recognisable jumpers there in the crowd.
Yeah, most famously the South Sydney and St George colours. I thought I saw a little bit of a Canberra Raider jersey there in the crowd, but you talk about the crowd, it's starting to build up. You can see the people starting to flow through the doors. They do turn up here late in the USA.
Well, this is exactly how it is in the United States when it comes to sporting events. In football, American football, Sundays they arrive real early. They do a thing called tailgating, where they drink a lot of beer and they eat a lot of hot dogs and grilled meats. That's what they do there. For the weeknight games, this is kind of usually how it works out.
Sounds very Australian. You could substitute a meat pie for the hot dogs. It could be happening outside any NRL venue right across Australia. And it wouldn't be an Australian Kangaroos appearance without the obligatory kangaroo. And I'm sure he might do a few laps perhaps in celebration at some Aussie tries here tonight. Both sides have taken the field, and we are just moments away from hearing the anthems for both nations. A rather mild night, it has to be said, by standards in recent times in the northeast of the US. It is quite balmy, Anthony, here, and I'm sure the Australians, although they do look a little bit cold standing there in the line at the moment, this, I must tell them, is fairly pleasant indeed.
It could be much, much colder this time of the year. Usually we'll have some snow, and it could be very cold, especially at night where you have a lot of the frost-bitten wind kind of whips in and out of here. So we got a good night here, to be honest with you.
You're exactly right. Brett Kamali standing by for the anthems. Of course, the Australian captain, Darren Lockyer, as we take the Australian anthem. It's the last game of what has been a long tour for the Australians, working their way through New Zealand and then the UK to come to America as we take the US national anthem. Training here in Philadelphia for the last couple of days. The American Tomahawks have been very pumped up for their chance to take on the world champions. And that rousing rendition, as you would expect, of the American anthem will have them in a fine mood now to come out to try and take on the Kangaroos in what will be 4 20-minute quarters here tonight. Our referee, a former Australian referee in the Queensland Cup, now based in New York, is Robert Irwin. He'll be very familiar with a lot of these players here tonight, and it will be Anthony Minicello who will do the honours with the toss as the Harry Sunderland medal winner tonight. We saw the number 9 jumper there on Scott Hill in the unaccustomed position, and the Aussies in a very light mood in this Rugby League International up against the USA Tomahawks. Jeff Preston, the captain of the American team, goes to the toss. And with little breeze here tonight, as we were saying, gentlemen, no real advantage to either side to winning the toss, but you would gather that if the Americans won the toss, Laurie, they might decide to kick off and defend first up to try and gain a little bit of confidence, perhaps, in defence against the Australians.
Well, they would be nervous, Warren. They'd be looking to get into the game as early as possible. And I think the best way to do that for them is through their defence. They need to be solid tonight. They need to move up. They not need to miss tackles. Whereas the Australians, I'm sure, would be looking to get the ball wide at every opportunity. It'll be a big test early on in this game for the US against the world champion Australians.
Anthony Minicello, with those duties at the toss, tells the Aussies which way they are running. And Willie Mason, we've seen recently what damage he's done to both the Kiwis and the Poms. We'll see what happens to the Americans here tonight. It will be the Australians who will receive the football. And for you American fans perhaps joining us for a rugby league game tonight for the first time, football, as far as we know it, is similar to your own type of football. Instead of having 4 downs in a possession, though, you get 6 tackles. Then you have to kick it if you can't score. Just like your style of football, where you get 3 plays. If you're not in field position, Anthony,
that's
you've
where
got
you
to
punt
kick
it.
it.
Yeah, that's where you would punt it. It's the our football it comes from your football. You know, Australian rules football. It's the genesis of American football, and I think this is my first indoctrination into rugby. And everybody here was very excited at having and being able to host this game tonight.
We are just about ready. It is the former Huddersfield and Canberra Raider before that player, Brandon Costin, who will place the ball at the halfway line or the 50-yard line if you like. This is a regulation American football field tonight, a little narrower than what we're used to in the NRL. And you would figure that that could only favour the Americans, with their defensive line obviously going to be stretched throughout this game by the world champions. We are underway here in Philadelphia. Big-time rugby league comes to the city of brotherly love when the kickoff is taken by Matt Singh, who had such a super game in the Tri-Nations final just a short few days ago at Elland Road in Leeds. He plays it as the Australians work it outside their 20. They take it up. The Americans get up eagerly in defence to start this game. The ball comes loose, though, from Mark O'Mealy, and the Americans are penalised for raking it out in the tackle.
It was a good start there by the United States team. They really got the numbers in the tackle. They tried to slow down to play the ball, but as you can see here, there was interference as O'Mealy was getting up to play the ball. Your hands must be away from the football. Otherwise, if it does come loose, there will be a penalty given.
As we said, this game will be played in 4 20-minute quarters. Warren Smith, Laurie Daly and Anthony Gargano bringing you the action here tonight from this famous venue at the University of Pennsylvania, as Nathan Hindmarsh is tackled some 15 metres short of the halfway line. And I'm sure the Australians are a little bit tentative as to the nature of the playing surface early on here. A couple of very easy hit-ups from Hindmarsh, followed by Mason.
Well, I think that's the key, Warren. They weren't exposed to this outfield. They turned up this afternoon. They had a look at it. They got here early and watched the Coogee Dolphins, but I think they were still a bit reluctant to actually take part in the field. But I think once the game warms up, they get into it, they'll be okay.
Timmins breaks the line to play it 40 metres out from the American line. Scott Hill in the unaccustomed role with the dummy half tonight. Comes to Kamali, who put it down. It looked like a knock-on. Play-on was the call from our referee, Rob Irwin. And the Americans get a touch of the football for the first time, and a strong tackle made by Hindmarsh. He picked up Danny Bull and drove him back to the turf.
Well, you can see already the intensity with the Australian defensive line, Warren. They'd be upset with their start to this game. Been a little bit sloppy, but they will pick the intensity up.
Matt Astle, a former lower grader with the Manly Sea Eagles and Newtown Jets as well, who now lives in New York. He's been here for 3 years, took it up on the previous play. He is one of the captains and coaches of one of the teams in the local American National Rugby League here as Peterson plays it. It comes from Vasilakopoulos, and they work it back through now the forwards, taking it up towards the Australian 20. A chance early on here for the American Tomahawks. Christian Rahui tries to come through and put a grubber down. Vasilakopoulos toes it forward, picked up by Bowen. It comes to Brent Tate in this compacted field. It looks pretty busy out there at times down through the middle as Mason has it, as we take a look again at the Vasilakopoulos attempted grubber. He might have just got a toe on it before the ball hit the ground.
What about the tackle, though? What about the tackle of Rick Dortoni? Sensational. Just coming in off his wing.
Here's O'Mealy flopping it out the back. Comes away through the hands there of Darren Lockyer. What a game he had against Great Britain in the final. Hot potato stuff at the moment. They'll play it here through Singh. Peterson trying to slow the ball down, gets in, and Singh might be unhappy to see the referee blow the whistle and rule a knock-on against him.
Could I ask you, could it possibly be any possibility of a letdown by the Aussie team? You know, you have a long trip, you're an overwhelming favorite. How much does that come into play in the mindset of the Aussie team?
I think it does. I think the first 5 to 10 minutes, they will want to know what the Americans are throwing at them. They will be competitive, but they're just sussing out their opponent at the moment. I think, though, if Wayne Bennett can get hold of them at quarter time, he might give them a rocket or two. Lazy start, but look, that's what you would expect. It's been a long season for the Aussies.
We might see the Rockets' red flare coming out of the dressing room, Laurie.
Well, we could do, Warren.
Peterson gets to dummy half to try and control things from the ruck for the moment as Costin turns it back on the inside. The Americans here just 15 yards away from the Australian try line. Astle takes up to be met by Mason, who ups the ante suddenly. He grabbed him and backslammed him. Peterson with a decoy play. Runs in behind the man there on the block play and takes it to within 5 metres of the Australian line. Vasilakopoulos waits at dummy half. Astle wants the ball, but he goes back to the left-hand side. Danny Bull in the centres tries to crash his way over. He might have got across the line, but Brent Tate and Matt Singh, with the help of Hindmarsh, combined to push him back into the field of play. Last play here. The kick isn't a bad one. The in-goal areas are rather deep here, and the Americans will get the ball back from a goal line dropout.
A great start by the Americans. Matty Peterson, well-weighted kick into the in-goal. Rooney, he had to knock the ball dead, and if you do that, you get an extra set of 6.
Peterson taking it to the left-hand side, looking to be the playmaker here tonight and reveling in the role. The American coach, the Tomahawks coach, John Cartwright, of course, an assistant to Ricky Stewart at the Sydney Roosters, as Nate Smith goes under a tackle and he gets to within an inch of the line. He'll play it. The Americans, through Eric Hollingsworth, are denied once again. Vasilakopoulos from dummy half gives it to Astle, but there is no way through the likes of Willie Mason and also Scott Hill. What a break it was by Nate Smith. Vasilakopoulos again to Peterson. In behind the decoy of Rahui, still going, gets across the line, and the Liberty Bell might ring once again in Philadelphia because the Tomahawks are first to score.
Oh my, this is incredible. Listen to that crowd. What does this mean now? The fact that we were talking before the broadcast that just if the Americans could score 1 touchdown, it would be a feat, and here they're in the lead.
Exactly right, and they could have scored when Nate Smith made a break, but it came down to Matty Peterson. He's been looking to this game, looking to try and impress. He's from Sydney, plays with the Parramatta club, going through the tackle of Mark O'Mealy, pushing out of Matty Bowen's tackle, putting the ball down. The USA first on the scoreboard, and they will be pumped after that. And I must say, well, we have to give our thanks and congratulations to the Parramatta Football Club for allowing Matt Peterson to come over here and play, to their coach Brian Smith. He realised the importance of international football.
You're exactly right. Nate Smith, who made the bust to get them in that field position to start with, is the kicker for the American side. A former kicker with the University of Louisville in Kentucky, a native Kentuckian himself, and the kick was a good one, and the Americans lead 6 points to 0.
That's a good story about this kid. He was one of the guns at Louisville University, broke all the records of David Akers, the Philadelphia Eagles kicker.
A good place kicker.
Watched the game on TV and wanted to be more than a kicker. He wanted to run with the football. He's already made a break in this game. He is someone that I'm sure people will be looking out for.
Impressive so far in this game has been the winger Nate Smith. The kickoff here on this narrow field. Darren Lockyer might have to readjust the sights because it sailed over the sideline, and the Australians trailing 6 points to 0 now give away a penalty at the halfway line, and we're almost midway through this first quarter. You see the kick again, sailing well over the sideline, and Wayne Bennett, a mystified look at the moment. Can't quite believe what he's seeing. And if the Australians have taken a light-hearted approach to the start of this game, as you said, Laurie, that may change in double quick time. Here's Astle taking it up, and suddenly there's a bit of intensity here from the Australian forward pack. Hindmarsh and O'Mealy coming in to crunch him. They work it forward again. A good charge there from Ian Blake, a player you may well see playing in the NRL in the next couple of years. Vasilakopoulos playing as it goes to the right-hand side. Costin, a cutout ball. And Rick D'Ortoni out there on the wing, unable to handle it, made the knock on. And the Australians will come up with possession through a scrum feed just 10 metres out from their own line. I mentioned Ian Blake, Laurie. He will play more than likely with the Toowoomba Clydesdales, the feeder club for the Brisbane Broncos this year. Originally from Austin, Texas. And he will get a chance to show what he can do. He was playing rugby in the tertiaries competition in Queensland over the last couple of years while studying up there in Brisbane. And the talent scouts of the Broncos saw him play. They liked what they saw. He gets a chance to impress once again against the Aussies here tonight.
Well, it's a good story, and it shows you that there's talented players out there from a young age, and it's just a matter about developing in whatever sport. They do see the game of rugby league. That's how the game of rugby league started over here. They saw it in the park, and people come down and wanting to play it. And all of a sudden now it's up to a 10-team competition.
Kamali at first receiver, comes to Mason, who throws a cutout ball, intercepted by Nate Smith, and the Americans have possession again just 30 metres out from the Australian line. Danny Bull works it back midfield.
Well, that's something you don't see too often in the game in Australia. Willie Mason going cutout balls. His job is just to cut the ball forward.
Costin bounces off the shoulder there of O'Mealy before Mason comes in to wrap him up. He's 15 out from the line as they go to the right-hand side. And again, it's Blake who carts it forward. He'll play it just in front of the post as they come left. Peterson turns it back on the inside there. A good charge from Shane Maines, a player who almost made it in the NFL with the New York Giants. A charge from dummy half by Vasilakopoulos, the former Sheffield Eagles player who was part of the championship-winning team back in 1998 in the UK Super League. But the ball has come loose here, I think, after the referee Robert Irwin said he was held, and the Australians will have possession here through a scrum. There's the cutout ball again attempted by Willie Mason, and Nate Smith is showing himself to be something of an athlete in his first ever year of rugby league.
Are you surprised at this start by the United States so far? Very spirited, being able to, they look excited and pumped and actually confident.
They are. They're playing some terrific football, but one thing when you play the Australians, you're only 3 sets of 6 away from having a scoreline put on you. They're that good at controlling the football. Yes, it has been a lazy start. I think we expected that at the start of the game. But they've got some outstanding footballers in this team and plenty of speed out wide to capitalise on any half breaks.
Mason taking it forward, flops it out the back to Mark O'Mealy, who was having a breather. He works it up towards the halfway line. The Australians with no chances to put a point on the board so far in the opening almost 11 minutes of this game. Timmins takes it up towards the 50. He'll play it here deep in the tackle count as Hill gets the dummy half, a one-handed pickup, tries to put a ball on for Singh, taken by Nate Smith, and you can say goodbye because the man they call Seabiscuit wins the race to the finishing post.
Wow.
2 tries unanswered by the American Tomahawks. And if the Australians have taken the game lightly, that will change right now, and they are on their feet in the bleachers here at Franklin Field.
Well, it certainly would. They didn't learn from their mistake. Willie Mason went a long pass out to the winger of Nate Smith. He took the intercept, and then Scott Hill from the dummy half position going down a short side, trying to put Matt Singh away. Nate Smith has been playing an up and in defence. He's come in between the player. He's received the football, plenty of speed. Second try of the night for the United States, and they are on fire.
As we take a look at it again, Nate Smith made a trip to Australia with the American Tomahawk side. There's nothing more than a fact-finding mission to take a look at rugby league at a higher level earlier this year and spend some time with the Parramatta Eels, and he might attract the attention of more NRL clubs on his display here in the opening quarter. No dramas with the artificial turf as he dived into the in-goal area, and here he is now trying to convert his own try to, believe it or not, make it 12 points to 0 to the Americans over the Australians.
We talked about this before, about equating to American football. This is like an NFL team going up against a high school team, and maybe a light Division III school. This is amazing when you look at the crowd here. Remember, this is the home, we talked about it before this broadcast, of Rocky, the fictitious character, and the American team looks like that thus far.
Well, I'm stunned. I'm stunned that the Australians are behind by 12 points. But having said that, I still know that the talent they've got in this side, I think after the rocket they will receive from Wayne Bennett at quarter time will be enough to then inspire them.
And they respond with a kick straight at the sideline with the short field here as far as the width of it is concerned. He takes the chance to drive one low and hard over the sideline. And the Kangaroos will get their best chance in attack in the game so far. They'll have it from just 25 metres out from the American line.
Well, we talk about completion rates in the game of rugby league, and at the moment it's certainly not high.
Kamali Goes to Lockyer, who throws the ball on the outside to Matt Cooper, getting a chance for the Australians here tonight. He'll play it. Just 6 yards out. Bowen at dummy half as they come back to the right. Lockyer, a ball to O'Mealy, who scored some big tries in the finals campaign for the Bulldogs this year in the NRL. He almost lost the Stars and Stripes ball behind his back. Kamali back on the inside. It comes back to Timmins. The defence, though, once again up pretty quickly, putting pressure on him, and they stop him about 7 metres away. Lockyer gets the ball. It comes to Kamali. He looks on his outside, turns it back on the inside to Kennedy. He stands in the tackle a while as well. They've got just 2 tackles left in this set of 6. Mason again, the playmaker. A lovely ball to O'Mealy, who will crash across the line. Did he get the ball down? No, he didn't. Held up, says Rob Irwin. And the Aussies will get it back with a scrum feed on the last play.
And Mark O'Mealy showing the Australian forwards what to do as a quick play. The ball, they go left to Darren Lockyer. A lovely ball to Matty Bowen. Onto the chest and drops it.
Bowen getting across the line as we came back out of the replay. And a chance for the Australians. Goes begging here. Lockyer, a lovely ball off the hip, and Bowen only had to hang on to it to score. And the Australians stay scoreless for the time being.
Well, you can see the intensity now starting to lift. They got to the end of their tackle. If they had held that football there, Bowen would have been able to score. They were held up over the line. And Mark O'Mealy is showing the Australian forwards what they need to do. Go forward before using the ball wide. Get the defensive line moving backwards.
That's Lukopoulos tapping it as they take it forward. And a good charge there made by Ian Blake. He ducked under the tackle to play it at the halfway line. That's Lukopoulos again to Astle, who bumped off the shoulder there of Mason. I'm sure he can scarcely believe the company he's keeping here tonight. Rahui met there by Hindmarsh, picked up some good metres. The Australians standing on their heels at the moment in the defensive line, waiting for the Americans to come to them as the fullback, Erin Hollingsworth, plays it at the 30-metre line. Chris Waters, another Australian with American heritage, born here, of course, in Iowa. He still has a lot of family here. And a Guildford Owls player in Sydney. He gets his chance tonight against the Kangaroos. Can you believe he's out there tonight in this exalted company? The ball put down by the Australians, but the Americans were up inside the kicker. Rick D'Ortoni, a little bit too keen coming through on the charge to try and get to the ball first. The Australians take a quick tap, and it's Hill who works it up 25 out from his own line.
I think they need to do a lot more of the Australians. Obviously, they've got to go forward, but they've got to play a high-tempo game. They are professionals. You would expect the United States to tire late in the game, so do everything at a high-paced game.
Here's Hindmarsh trying to spin in the tackle there, but stopped by Matt Astle. He'll play it back to Lockyer, doing some work from dummy half suddenly. O'Mealy charging at them. The ball goes over the head of Darren Lockyer, chased by Peterson, who knocked it away from him, grabbed by Cooper, and it's play on, says the referee. The Tomahawks, another chance, looking for their 3rd try of the game. It comes away to Rahui. They'll stop him just 10 yards out from the line. Eventually they get him to ground. Timmins and Kamali making the tackle. Vasilakopoulos from dummy half. Charging again, trying to force his way across. Keen to get across the line himself here as it comes back once again to Christian Rahui. He'll play it just a yard or so away from the line. Blake, just a short pass off the ruck. Wasn't going to get past Nathan Hindmarsh or Willie Mason. They're lined to the left-hand side here, and Peterson grubbers once more for the in-goal area. Some pressure on Matt Bowen. He fires a pass to Matt Singh. He goes again to Luke Rooney, who gallops back into the field of play, and the Australians have done very well to bring it back.
That was confidence there by the Australians. They realised they didn't want a repeat set of 6 where they would have had to defend, but instead they kept the ball alive.
Tate it is, who brings it back out towards the 20. Just over 2 minutes remaining in this first quarter, and the American Tomahawks, they lead the Kangaroos 12 points to 0 as Bowen goes to Lockyer. He cuts back on the inside to give it to Tate, who is wrapped up by this American defence, which is working keenly at the moment. We'll see how much gas they've got in the tank. The ball comes loose. Will Brazier, one of the players for the Tomahawks, had a crack at it. He missed it. Bowen had it, and then it was put down by Darren Lockyer, the best player in the world, had a golden chance to score.
What about the footwork of Matty Bowen? That's why he's one of the exciting players in the NRL competition, Darren Lockyer. Very rarely would you see this. Matty Bowen, lovely ball on the Lockyer. Just knocking it down, kicking the ball forward. Another chance gone begging there for the Australians.
What kind of effect does this have now? As this game goes further and you see the opportunities missed by Australia, does it creep in the back of your mind that, hey, this underdog's got a chance?
Well, I think the longer the game goes and the more that the Australians are behind on the scoreboard, they might think like that. But at the moment, they still know that there's 61 minutes left in this game. There'll be plenty more opportunities, but they have to show a little bit more patience with the football. They're trying to rush things here at the moment.
The Tomahawks take it down the middle of the park into Australian territory once again. Roger Tuamaloa from dummy half doing the work here for Will Brazier, who will play it just 35 out from the Australian line. They've had a couple of chances, the Aussies, but coughed up 2 certain tries as the ball goes in the air. Some pressure on Matt Singh, who at the last moment looked at Matt Bowen. He didn't want to know too much about it. There was confusion amongst the two of them, and the Tomahawks have it again. Here's Peterson. He will play it just 6 metres away from the Australian line. Some concern amongst the Aussies at the moment as Tuamaloa goes to Ian Blake. He's stopped there by Mason and also Kennedy. They take it to the right-hand side. They work it there towards the wing of Rick D'Ortoni. Still just a couple of metres out. Tuamaloa fires a pass, not a bad one from dummy half. Oh, they look for a field goal, but it is waved away. And at quarter time in this Liberty Bell Cup match between the Australian Kangaroos and the USA Tomahawks, it's the Tomahawks, not the Australians, who lead 12-0.
Well, it's been a great game by the United States football team. They have played some outstanding football and they have challenged the Australians when they've had the ball.
Matt Peterson has been very involved in a late field goal attempt by them. They tried to extend the scoreline to 13 points to nothing, and I'm sure Wayne Bennett will have plenty to say to the Aussies here at quarter time. If they've taken the Americans lightly, they might change their mind here as they get a short breather in Pennsylvania at the Franklin Field at University of Pennsylvania. We will take a break and come back with the action of the second quarter right after this. In the US on Fox World, and of course back home in Fox Sports Australia, a sweltering couple of days along the east coast of Australia, Laurie, and the action itself has been pretty hot if you're an American fan here at Franklin Field.
Well, it's been great. Nate Smith has come up with 2 interceptions tonight, this one leading to a try. First of all, Willie Mason done a short side play with a long ball trying to get on the outside of Smith, and then it was Scott Hill once again, long ball. He's an exciting player. You mentioned the fact that he did go out to Australia on a fact-finding mission. He's keen to impress NRL judges and get an opportunity out there in Australia as the Australians are in the huddle. And I'm sure that Wayne Bennett, their coach, would have spoke to them about treating the opposition with a little bit more respect. Well, one thing I've got to say, the skill level of the United States team has been fantastic. They play the ball, their catch and pass has been fantastic.
Let's go downstairs to Rob Balachandran, who's with the USA Tomahawks coach John Cartwright.
Hey guys, how are you? John, this is the best start the USA has ever had. Tell me what you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I'm very happy for the lads. I was a bit worried before the game started. You know, they're playing the world champions, but you know, they've done all the simple things well. They've done everything that we've asked of them, and you know, the scoreboard were 12-0 up, but a long way to go.
You know better than anyone on the American side that you can never let your guard down with the Australian team. What are you telling your guys as they move forward in this next quarter?
Just try not to get too excited. They, you know, they're probably not in a position they expected to be in, so really just try not to get too excited. Keep playing the simple game that we set out to play. You know, just kick, chase, and tackle.
Good on you, John. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
John Cartwright there with Rob Balachandran, liking what he's seen so far from his team in the first 20 minutes here. And we will be playing, as we said, in 20-minute quarters tonight. The referee coming back out, Rob Irwin, to get us back underway in Philadelphia.
Did you notice the American team, as they huddled up during the break, the smiles and exuberance? And I think it was interesting that Coach Cartwright was talking about, just keeping your head and not getting too excited.
I think that's the key against Australia. I mentioned earlier the fact that the Australians on consecutive sets of 6 can put points on the board. They've got a great goal kicker out there in Lockyer. I wouldn't be panicking at this stage if I was the Australian, but I was just looking to them improve in certain areas of the game as Lockyer once again finds touch off the kickoff.
Well, the Australians have very quickly worked out on this firm, far surface. You can drive it low and hard towards the sideline. And John Cartwright might have his hands full as far as a realignment is concerned with this American football size field, giving the kicking team a real chance to get possession back from the restart, and that's exactly what the Australians have done. They've had a couple of very good chances to score points in this game, but haven't come up with a try as yet as Cooper is tackled. He gets it back to Matt Bowen. There was a real live wire. He will scoot across this artificial surface in a hurry if he gets the chance, as Hill comes to the right-hand side. O'Mealy running hard, but a good tackle made by Will Brazier underneath there with the help of Vasilakopoulos over the top. Here's Timmins taking it to the line, but he's stopped. And the Americans, aided by this compacted defensive line, doing a good job on top of their own goal line at the moment. The Australians have it just 6 metres away. That's where Hill plays it. Tate double pumps it, gives it back to Kamali. Then it comes to Nathan Hindmarsh. His Parramatta teammate there, Matt Peterson, in to make the tackle. He would have enjoyed that. They play it still 5 metres out. As Kamali, a cut-out ball to Kennedy. There's a chance for the Australians, but Bowen puts it down once again. Knock-ons both ways. There was almost a high tackle there on Rick D'Ortoni. Willie Mason throws out the hand and says, if I got you a bit high, mate, I'm sorry about that.
Again, the execution from the Australians. Just when they needed to catch and pass and play the football, it wasn't there, and on this occasion it was Matty Bowen. They worked the numbers well. Kennedy onto Bowen. Bowen had a little bit of a peek.
So the Americans doing very well. Pressed up against their own line on that occasion. Once again, Timmins makes a big hit. Danny Bull felt the full effect of that one as Vasilakopoulos comes to his right-hand side to give it to Brandon Costin, who goes straight through the tackle of Mark O'Mealy. He comes to Matt Bowen, and Kamali will make the tackle, dragging him down from behind. He's just 15 out from the Australian line. Going quickly was Gareth Gibbs. He takes it to within 5 yards of the line, but he's tackled on the last, and the Aussies hang on, but only just.
Well, they hung on just. Brendan Costin, a terrific break. He had problems with the hamstring earlier in the week, and I'm sure when he made that break, it was in the back of his mind. He didn't actually stretch out. Looked as though he was in half pace, three-quarter pace. But the Aussies, defensively, they haven't been strong. Ball out to Cooper.
Now there's trouble. Here comes Cooper, stepping past a couple of them. He'll be tackled there eventually by Brandon Costin. Here's Bowen getting out of dummy half, pinching about 20 metres before he was stopped there by Ben Kelly. They go left again, down the short side. Hill, a lovely ball to Luke Rooney. Back on the inside to Scott Hill, who throws a ball over the top. Dropped by Matt Cooper. The Aussies bomb another one.
Wow, wow. How many opportunities?
That's the thing in the game of rugby league. You've got to take your opportunities when they present themselves. They've had 4 or 5 tries on the offering tonight, and they just haven't been able to hold that pass. As the Australians now give away a penalty being inside the 10, you have to be back with the referee. And now it's the United States looking to play a high-paced game.
They will have it just outside the Australian 30. Some lovely play by the Aussies in the last set of 6. But here are the Tomahawks once again. They work it up towards the 25-yard line on this American football field. A charge down the middle of the park. Willie Mason didn't want to know too much about J.C. Roker. He dragged him down from behind and gave him a smile at the same time. Vasilakopoulos to Peterson. It comes away to Bull. He had support on his outside, but took it to ground a couple of yards away. Here is J.C. Roker again, stopped in no uncertain terms, still just a couple of yards out. Peterson, a grubber, off the legs of the Australians. He drops it backwards. It comes back here to Joe Becker in the headgear. He plays it 5 yards out. Last tackle. Peterson at first receiver will go to the air with the bomb. Rooney is out there for the Australians, but it comes down to the Tomahawks. Kamali got a touch to it. It was knocked backwards. It's still there. Danny Bull picks it up. Was it play on? Yes, it was. The Americans have their 3rd try, and it's 16 points to 0.
Do you believe in miracles, as Al Michaels here in the States used to say?
Well, the Australians, they went up for the football. They didn't come down with it. It was a great kick. Up in the air, there was plenty of chasers coming through, and it was touched by Kamali. Costin didn't think there was 6 to go. He put it on toe, and the next thing you know, it bounces up into the arms, and the Americans, Denny Bull scoring. Well, what a scoreline this is.
And look at the bounce. Perfect bounce right into his arms. Everything go the Americans' way. It's a magical night here in Philadelphia.
In Australia, we would call that a room service bounce.
I love it. Oh, my.
Laurie Daly has been spending too much time in hotels here in Philadelphia, keeping out of the cold, quite obviously, as the Australians stand behind the try line at the moment, looking at a 16-0 scoreline against them. The kick from Brandon Costin is good, and the Tomahawks lead the Australians 18 points to 0.
I spoke to Jeff Preston earlier today and for a while, and all he said, guys, was that we don't want to embarrass ourselves. That was the main goal of the United States, the Americans, coming into it.
Well, they certainly haven't embarrassed themselves here so far. In fact, we're on track at the moment for the miracle on artificial turf. Here's Lockyer, grubbering for himself, trying to get to the football, but some desperation shown there by the Americans, and Vasilakopoulos came up with it. A good hustle. And he did well with Lockyer on his hammer to come up with it. And they'll play it here through Jeff Preston, their captain. Just 15 metres on their own side of halfway, and again, Robert Irwin here, the referee, has the Australians up inside the 10. Getting the rub of the green at the moment as Wayne Bennett watches on. He looks concerned, the coach, Laurie.
Well, I would be concerned at 18 points behind. The Americans have played some outstanding football. We spoke about the core skills. That's something that's really improved. And watching John Cartwright work with these guys over the last 3 days, he's certainly improved their skill level and given them a better understanding and knowledge of the game.
Brian Coleman playing it 25 yards out from the Australian line as Vasilakopoulos comes to his right-hand side. They work it forward there through Ed Woodbridge, another replacement for the Tomahawks in their forward pack. Costin taking to the line, showing it a good ball as well, but it wasn't handled there by Ben Kelly, and he coughs it up. The Australians will have it through a scrum feed just 15 yards out from their line as we go downstairs once again to Rob Balachandra.
Yeah, guys, it looks like there's a lot of activity a little bit on the Australian bench here. It kind of looked like they're at a funeral for a while, but the coach is moving around players. Sean Berrigan looks like he's going up back on the field, as is Andrew Ryan. This is not a very happy Australian bench, but we'll see what happens. A lot of time left in this game. Thanks.
Well, that is for sure and certain as Rooney plays it. Bowen from dummy half comes back. There's Wayne Bennett still watching on, aghast at the moment. Sivanasiva plays it back to Brent Tate. Here is Andrew Ryan, the Bulldogs captain-elect for 2005 in the Australian NRL, as Timmins runs a long way, showing it a number of times. Cuts back to the open as Hill throws a cutout ball for Tate. He had Singh outside him, runs down the middle of the park, past the referee. He used him as a shepherd, but the pass for Matt Bowen was intercepted, and the Americans come up with it once again.
Well, again, Warren, we speak about patience. The Australians just trying to force it. There's plenty of space out there. They're finding the numbers on the edge and then going back through the middle, but Tate, you can just see there, trying to force the pass, trying to find the quicker man. As a good hit from Hindmarsh.
Well, J.C. Roker ran into an absolute brick wall, and he's still on the artificial turf here behind the play. And now Scott Hill loses it. It comes away to Matt Peterson, and it's play on, says the referee, as the Tomahawks take it up towards the halfway line. The completion rate at the moment for the Australians is awful, as Danny Bull works it 5 metres into Kangaroos territory. Vasilakopoulos goes to his right-hand side, where Brandon Costin is stopped there by Hill and also Hindmarsh. The Aussies make another change to their bench. An awful lot here in this second quarter. Sean Timmins replaced as Tony Carroll comes on the field for the Aussies. A kick in behind the line, finds touch, and the Americans work it down the park. The Aussies will have it from a scrum, 10 out from their own line once again.
And that's a smart bit of play there by Matty Peterson. The game was starting to develop into a real quick contest, and they were starting to struggle the United States, but he found touch. It's given their team time to walk to a scrum, get their breath back, and now get set to defend once again.
Half an hour gone in Philadelphia, and the Tomahawks lead the Australians 18 points to 0. If they were being nice to them and giving them a head start, perhaps the friendship of the Liberty Bell Cup was extended just a little bit too far here in this opening half. Bowen from dummy half comes back to Sivanasiva. He puts a pivot on himself. Stop there, about 15 short of the halfway line as O'Mealy takes it forward. A ball out the back, not handled once again by Bowen. They are certainly throwing it around. Picked up there by Brandon Costin for the US team. And he will play it a couple of metres on his own side of halfway. They work it back to the left where Ian Blake runs at Darren Lockyer. Picked his mark there, the Brisbane Bronco lower grader, if you like, running at his captain. Here's Danny Bull, away from dummy half. Comes to Scott Hill, who wraps him up upstairs. Some strong tackling downstairs from Tony Carroll. Perhaps Danny Bull isn't too familiar with Tony Carroll, but a bad man to run at.
Well, he's one of the best defensive players in the NRL in Australia, Tony Carroll. Got a good technique, he hits hard, he hits low.
They put a high kick in again, and the Australians have had a tough time of it so far. Perhaps the Americans have done their homework, and John Cartwright said Matt Bowen can have his moments under the high ball. Let's test him out.
But on that occasion, Warren, the three-quarter line from the Australians, they shepherded really well. They kept the Americans away from the football to give him a good catch out at Bowen.
Tate gave it back to Lockyer, who linked up once again here with Cooper. What a step he put on Ben Kelly. He left him clutching at Fineri. Still going, Cooper. He takes it down the sideline, 35 away from the American line as the Australians look for their first points of the night inside the final 10 minutes of this first half. Lovely ball from Lockyer. It came back for Sean Berrigan. He stopped. Lockyer comes to Hill. Back to Lockyer once again. He's got plenty of options. That wasn't the one he was looking for, though. He fired it over the top. Cooper had a play at it, but the pass was too long, and perhaps the narrow field once again catching out the Aussies.
Yeah, how much does the narrow field come into play here? You saw on a couple of the rushes earlier where if it's the regular size field, it looks like Australia scores.
Well, Australia like to play with plenty of width, and their wingers hold the touchline very well. They've got some of the best passes in the competition. They've got some of the best exponents of the kick. So it will come into play. But having said that, the scramble defence of the Americans has been first class.
And if the field is a problem for the Aussies as far as the width of it, it certainly isn't for the Tomahawks at the moment. They make a rare mistake here. Danny Bull jumped into dummy half and tried to work it away quickly. They can't afford to put themselves under pressure at this end of the park. Brazier got up to play it quickly. Bull was off before acceptances. And the Kangaroos have it. 20 out from the Tomahawks line. Here's Hill in a more familiar role, working the scrum on that occasion. Bowen put a little two-step on and almost worked his way through the line. He'll play it. 5 metres out, Ryan. The pass comes away from Hill to O'Mealy. He loses it though in the tackle. Picked up by the Tomahawks fullback, Eric Hollingsworth, and they've hung on again.
It was a good shot put on Mark O'Mealy. He turned the ball over, but they got him just under the ribs. There was good contact with the football. And touching the football and playing with it before the game, it was quite slippery. And the Australians are certainly struggling to come to grips with it.
And with this surface, the ball will collect moisture. This surface will gather some moisture, which will make, especially on a night like this, cold night, and make the ball more slippery.
Matt Astle now with some tape around the head, plays it for Vasilakopoulos as the Americans get a clearing kick away through Brandon Costin, looking for plenty of metres as well. Not a bad one. He was after a 40-20, and Matt Singh had his work cut out to keep it in the field of play. Good work in the end by the winger as he brings it back outside the 20. He links up with Luke Rooney. He runs to the defence and is stopped there by Shane Maines as he plays it. Let's go downstairs once again to Rob Balachandran, who's with the American captain, Jeff Preston.
Jeff, tell me what you're feeling right now. This is the best the Americans have ever played.
He's not feeling too good, I can tell you, Rob, as Matt Bowen runs a long way, and the Australians have their first try of the night. It took them 35 minutes to get to it, but the Americans, perhaps tiring towards half-time, opened up down the middle of the park, and once Bowen had a sniff, He came to Eric Hollingsworth, who had no chance of stopping him. He stepped past him and grabbed their first 4-pointer.
Yeah, it was great work from the Australians. They convert so well, the Australians, from when they've been defending. When they get the ball straight away to offensively, they use the football. They number up well. They know where the ball has to be shifted to. They go to the space. And on this occasion, it was their front rower, Petro Sivanasiva, offloading to Matty Bowen, who's looked dangerous on his feet, can step off both feet. Tremendous player. Got his opportunity in rep football only in the last couple of years, but he's certainly making it every post a winner as Lockyer converts to bring the Australians closer to the USA.
18-6 it is now to the Americans as we go back downstairs once again. Rob, we cut you off, but I'm sure Jeff Preston wasn't too happy to see Matt Bowen running away to grab a try.
No, absolutely not. Jeff, you and I have played together for years, and certainly we've not been up on many teams 18-6, let alone Australia. What are you going to tell the guys and keeping their emotions in check so you can continue this lead?
I'm just doing what Coach Cartwright's been telling us. You know, we're making our tackles, sacking them, piling on top, making our tackles, making good runs, just keeping the game simple. Sometimes in the past, we used to do too many, try to do too many things. We're just keeping things simple, and it's working right now. So, you know, the game's not over yet. Okay, this is a world champion side, so we got to work cut out for us.
Thank you,
Jeff Preston, the long-serving American captain there with Rob Bellachandran, as the kicking tee comes back out for Brandon Costin, who I'm sure for a moment there thought he had a 40-20 coming up his way. Only to see Matt Singh do well up against the sideline. He linked up with Rooney. In the blinking of an eye, Matt Bowen is running away to the other end of the field. Sivanasiva plays it as Berrigan works it from dummy half. He comes to the right-hand side to give it to Carroll. He'll play it just 20 metres short of his own halfway line as Berrigan throws a ball which was never going to be grabbed there by Scott Hill. It put him under all sorts of pressure, and again the Aussies trying to show what they can do very quickly in their own half, give it back to the Tomahawks, who have a chance to once again open up the scoreline.
Well, if you're moving the football, you've got to execute well, and on that occasion the pass was nowhere up around the chest. It was down around the ankles. These type of conditions always going to be very difficult. But we say in our game, after you score points, the next set of 6, you must get to your kick. You must transfer the football down the other end of the park. And the Australians on this occasion have turned it over too cheaply, and all of a sudden they're under pressure once again.
And you're right before halftime and right before the second quarter ends, and that's where a momentum, whether it's American football or rugby especially, you need to continue with that momentum.
Spot on.
Here they are again, just 10 out from the line. Vasilakopoulos goes to the right-hand side. Costin showing it a couple of times. Stopped there by Berrigan and also Cooper. They are spread to the left. They take it to the line, though, looking for perhaps a play after this with Ian Blake taking it within a couple of metres. What a great pass from Vasilakopoulos to Matt Peterson. He looked up and saw a wall of green jumpers in front of him. He'll play it on the last tackle. 10 out from the Aussie line. Costin grubbering in behind them. Nobody at home. He picked it up. And from Huddersfield to Philadelphia, Brandon Costin scores the 4th try of the game for the Americans.
Well, we're talking about momentum swings. The Australians had all the ascendancy, executed poorly, turned the ball over, and on 5th tackle, Brandon Costin from Huddersfield in England has grub a kick through and scored the 4th try of the night for the American Tomahawks underneath the sticks. There was a gap in behind to play the ball. It just allowed him to just slice the football through. Didn't come off an Australian leg. Another but pick up. I was going to say room service bounce. There was no room service bounce there, baby. That was skill.
And once again, it was so important because the Americans were on their heels of momentum shifting easily against the mighty Aussies, and to come back and score is huge right now.
Nate Smith is back out there. He converted from right in front, and with just on 40 seconds left in this first half, it is 24-6 to the USA Tomahawks. They call him Seabiscuit. They saw his speed earlier this year, and they decided to name him after the famous American racehorse who was the subject of a hit movie in recent times. And now another kick for the sideline. We'll find it. Lockyer drilled it once again only about 20 yards or so, and it bounced just inside the sideline. So the Aussies will finish this first half on the attack. They'll have just this one play after the scrum sets, but they would be desperate to get it back to 24-12 here as we go to half-time at Franklin Field. Here's Lockyer. What will he put on? He gives it to Tate, who puts it down. That has been the theme of the first half for the Australians. Picked up here by Brandon Costin, and that will do us, you would think, for action in this first half. There's the siren now. Smith goes away from dummy half. Hill grabs him and dumps him to the turf, and they will get a rousing ovation, these Tomahawks players, as they leave the field here tonight. What a half of football from them. If the Australians have taken it a little bit easy on them, that surely will change in the second half here. The USA lead Australia 24 points to 6 in the Liberty Bell Cup. We will take a break and come back to look at all those first half highlights just in a moment. Make sure you stay with us as we bring you this historic game from Franklin Field here in Philadelphia. This is Philadelphia as we go inside the USA dressing room. Half-time here at Franklin Field in the Liberty Bell Cup. And this team, listening to the words of their assistant coach there, Shane Millard, lead the Australians 24 points to 6. 4 tries to 1 in that first 40 minutes, and there were some terrific highlights for the local fans to cheer in that first half. Matt Peterson, the Parramatta Eel, scored the first try of the game, as it turned out. This one, a loose ball across the park, was picked up though by Danny Bull. He attacked it, Darren Lockyer didn't, and that try there made it 18 points to 0 to the locals.
I think that's been the difference, Warren. The United States have attacked the football, and Matty Bowen getting the first 4-pointer of the Australians in that first half. He looked dangerous when he had the football. He's got plenty of speed, he's got good footwork, and the Americans will have to be careful around the middle of the park. What about the pick-up here of Brendan Costin? Last tackle play, just puts it in behind the defensive line, in between the defensive line and the covering fullback. He picks it up, places it over the try line, and the Americans leading by 18 points leading into the second half.
You know, we saw the shot of the American locker room. Now take me inside their locker room. What do you tell these players? You have a 24-6 lead at half, the biggest shocker around the world. What do you say to your team?
We're still trying to get them to be relaxed, but you get them not to worry about and focus on the scoreboard. What they have to do is worry about the present and the processes which are required. Don't worry about a set of 6. Just worry about the next tackle. Whether it's offensively or defensively, just worry about things you can control. So if someone's running the ball and we're defending, it's about making the right contact, having the right technique, and being able to slow the ball down to allow us to get back and set in our defensive line. Conversely, if we've got the football, make sure we stay relaxed, we stay focused, we know what our game plan is, but we execute well. We can't get sloppy now when we're starting to get tired.
It looked like the Americans played very well in slowing the game down and not getting caught up in a pace with the much better, much more skilled Aussie team.
And that was very good coaching. Talking to John Cartwright, he wanted his players to be able to slow the game down when it was required. When they needed a rest, it was their senior players in Peterson and Pearson that found the touch line. When they wanted to play an up-tempo game, every time they got a penalty, they found touch quickly and got the Australians on the back foot. So they've played it smartly, they've better executed than the Australians. But having said that, the Australians are not world champions for nothing. I would expect them to come out and be the dominant team in the next 40 minutes.
Well, it wouldn't be half-time at an American sporting event without the big band out there and the marching band entertaining the crowd as we take a break once again. Half-time here in Philadelphia, 24-6 to the Americans. Thank you for staying with us once again here in Philadelphia. We're at Franklin Field at the University of Pennsylvania, and the USA Tomahawks in this first taste of rugby league for the local fans as far as big-time league is concerned in this part of the world. They like what they see with the locals leading the Australians, the world champions at that, 24 points to 6. And if there was a lack of intensity from the Aussies in that first 40 minutes, in fact, I'm sure we'll see things upped rather quickly as far as the ante is concerned here, Laurie Daly, in this second half. But the Americans, with their tails up, might come out once again and ask a few questions of them, especially in defence in this opening to the third quarter.
Yeah, I've got no doubt they will, Warren. They've been very committed, and it's been a great performance so far from the Americans. We spoke earlier about their skill level. I can remember playing in a World Sevens game against the Americans 10 years ago, and their catch pass, their play the ball was very, very ordinary. 10 years down the track, it's improved a lot. And it's the work that the coaches have been doing with them. And David Newey, I mean, he's the guy that's got it up and running over here in America. I think he's to be congratulated because they've come so far in a short space of time.
And you look at the sports growing very popular on college campuses. A lot of the young people in the States gravitating toward the game because of its similarity to American football. It's a beautiful game, lovely. And it's my first game, actual rugby game I've attended. And it's fantastic. You see the college campuses, people are liking it.
You talk about the similarities. What is the biggest similarity between our game?
Well, I think it's the physical nature, the physicality of the sport is very similar. And you look at the ball carriers and that sort of thing.
Let's go back downstairs once again to Rob Bellachandran, the former Tomahawk, is down on the sideline.
Anthony, just picking up on what you said, I've been speaking to a lot of the fans here that have first time watched Rugby League, and after 5 minutes they understood it, and after the 6th minute they loved it. And I've heard a lot of people asking about where can we see it, we want more of this, are there going to be professional leagues developing here? So this is the greatest thing again to happen to Rugby League in the United States, and with the score like we have right now, we're going to keep our fingers crossed that the party can keep going.
Don't you think this game, Rob, does a lot to just making it that much bigger in the States?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's so friendly. It's much more quicker than football is, and not to compete with football, which we all love and will always love, but there is definitely a niche here for rugby league in the United States.
Without a doubt, you look at one of the differences that the continual play in American football, there's a lot of stoppages, and that slows the game down. Here, it's continual play, and I think that people love that part of it.
You know what? I think the concession stands won't be happy because American football, people walk and leave. I haven't seen anyone leave their seats at all until halftime break, so it's just great.
Well, the Aussies come back out onto Franklin Field. This new sprint turf, artificial grass surface, hasn't been a factor at all in the opening 40 minutes, Laurie Daly, and any concerns the players had were dispelled very quickly.
Well, they were. There was no problem for the United States diving on the ground, and I'm sure that'll be the case in the second half for the Australians. Now, one guy that the United States have to watch out for in the second half now is Anthony Minichiello, the running fullback from the Sydney Roosters in Australia, the Harry Sunderland medal winner. He is out on the field now. He was one of the best performers over there in England.